San Francisco, a autumn afternoon. The warm golden sunlight shines through the skyscrapers, creating long shadows on the bustling streets. The honking of cars and the laughter of pedestrians blend together, creating a symphony of liveliness. But inside me, Emily Parker, everything is collapsing. I stand in front of the Parker Innovations office, where I have devoted my youth to build. Inside, everyone is busy with lines of code, tense meetings, and upcoming projects. But today, the atmosphere feels unusual. A heavy feeling fills the air, as if a storm is silently approaching. Emily. The voice of Michael, my father, calls from inside. Come in, we need to talk. I take a deep breath, trying to shake off the rising emotions. Each step into the office seems to pull me closer to something unavoidable. I have felt this since last week when my father began having secret calls and unclear meetings. The feeling of anxiety wells up inside me, and I can't help but wonder, is something serious happening? As I walk in, I see my father standing at his desk, holding a blank sheet of paper. His gaze is filled with tension, and I know that something great awaits me. There is an important decision I need to inform you about, he says, his voice deep and serious. What is it? I ask, trying to keep my voice calm, but inside I feel like there is a whirlwind. We have overcome these difficulties, right? The company is on the rise. Yes, but... He hesitates, then looks straight into my eyes. I have decided that Sophie will take over the company. Those words hit me like a strong slap to the face. I can't believe my ears. Sophie? But... I'm the one who saved this company. I'm the one who developed the software we are using. My voice rises, filled with emotion. Michael shakes his head. You don't understand. Sophie communicates better, she can connect with clients. I need someone who can represent the company. But that's not the reason. I feel anger rising. I have worked tirelessly to save this company. Why don't you trust me? This is not a matter of trust, he replies, his voice calm but firm. This is about the future of Parker Innovations. I need someone who can pull the company out of crisis. I stand there, frozen. All my efforts, all the sleepless nights and sweat have now seemed meaningless. In my heart, a big question arises, is everything I have done just a game, and am I the loser? I will not let this happen, I say. My voice now filled with determination. I will prove to you that I can lead this company. Michael looks at me, his eyes like a closed door. You can try, but the decision has been made. Sophie will take over. I turn away, feeling like everything is collapsing around me. Stepping out of the office, I feel not only pain but also fury. I have sacrificed too much for this company. And now, I am being pushed out like a stranger. As I step onto the street, I see cars rushing by and pedestrians busy with their lives. But inside me, a storm is rising. I cannot let this happen. I will not let Sophie, whom I know for sure is not capable enough, take over the company that I saved. Jake, I whisper, remembering my old friend. He has always believed in me. And I need his support right now. Immediately, I take out my phone and call him. Emily? What's wrong? Jake's voice comes through, filled with worry. I need to meet you right now, I say. Feeling like time is slipping away quickly. There is a big plan that needs to be executed. Okay, I'll be there soon, he replies. As I stand in the street, golden leaves falling from the trees. I feel a new determination filling my heart. I will not only fight for myself, but also for all those who have believed in me. Parker Innovations will not fall into Sophie's hands. I will prove that I deserve this position. The thrill and determination surge within me, like a fire burning bright. Today could be the beginning of a battle, but I am ready. I will not stop until I reclaim what is rightfully mine. When I stepped into the small cafe near the office, The aroma of freshly ground coffee filled the air, but I couldn't enjoy that flavor. My mind was swirling with chaotic thoughts. I sat down at the table, feeling restless, waiting for Jake to arrive. Every second felt like a century. And I felt like I was standing in the midst of a storm. Emily. Jake's voice rang out, pulling me out of my thoughts. He walked into the cafe, his hair tousled and his eyes full of concern. What's going on? I don't know where to start, I sighed, my hands clenched tightly. My father just announced that Sophie will take over the company. What? Jake exclaimed, sitting down at the opposite table. She can't lead. You've worked so hard to save this company. That's right, I said, my voice filled with anger. But my father doesn't see that. He only looks at the surface, at Sophie's communication skills. I need to prove to him that I am worthy. Jake nodded, looking at me with sympathetic eyes. So what are we going to do? I took a deep breath, feeling like a fire was igniting within me. I need to find out what Sophie is doing. She might be secretly sabotaging the company. I want to know everything I can to prevent that. All right, Jake said, his eyes growing resolute. Where do we start? I need to get into the office, see the projects she is in charge of. Maybe I'll find evidence that she's not capable. I felt like a warrior preparing for battle, and Jake was my ally by my side. The next day, I returned to the office, feeling anxious. Everyone was still working hard, but I felt like I was lost in a world I used to belong to. I walked straight to Sophie's office, where I knew she was working. Emily, what's going on? A colleague asked as I walked by. I just want to check a few documents, I replied, trying to keep my voice calm. When I reached Sophie's office door, I paused for a moment. The excitement surged within me. I couldn't let her know that I suspected her. I knocked on the door and heard her voice from inside. Come in. When I opened the door, I saw Sophie sitting in front of her computer, looking quite pleased. She wore a stylish business suit, her hair neatly piled up. Seeing me, she smiled, but that smile couldn't hide her arrogance. Hi, Emily. Is there something I can help you with? She asked, her tone as if I were a child seeking approval. I just want to see a few documents about the new project, I replied, striving to maintain my calm demeanor. Oh, of course. But if there's anything we need to discuss, I'd be happy to share, she said, her eyes sparkling with challenge. I stepped in, feeling like I was walking into a trap. The room was modernly decorated, but the atmosphere inside was cold. I looked around, trying to find any sign indicating that she was doing something wrong. This project, you're in charge of it, right? I pointed at the plan on the desk. That's right, Sophie replied, her tone full of self-satisfaction. I developed it from scratch. We're going to launch this product in a few weeks. Can you show me the figures? I asked, trying not to reveal my doubts. Sure, she said, opening a document on her computer. But when I looked at the screen, I saw figures that were far from optimistic. The projected revenue was much lower than what I had anticipated. Are you sure you calculated this correctly? I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. It seems like this number doesn't match what I've seen in the previous reports. That's the way I calculated it, Sophie said. But I could see a flicker of worry in her eyes. Maybe I'll need to review this, I said, determined to uncover the truth. If not, we will be in big trouble. The feeling of anxiety surged like a wave within me as I left Sophie's room. I needed to find out more, but I couldn't do it easily. I needed a plan. Emily. Jake's voice rang out as I exited the office. Any updates? I need more information about Sophie's project. It seems like she's hiding something, I said, feeling exhausted but resolute. Where can we find out? Jake asked, his eyes filled with expectation. I will need some documents from other departments. Maybe they noticed issues that I couldn't see, I suggested. All right. Let's start with the finance department. They may have more accurate numbers, Jake suggested. The next day, Jake and I went to the finance department. As we entered, the atmosphere in the room grew tense. The employees were working hard, but their looks were filled with worry. Hello everyone, I said, trying to create a relaxed atmosphere. I need some information about Sophie's project. We don't know much about that, an employee said, looking puzzled. But if there are issues, we need to know, Jake said, his voice full of determination. We all want the company to thrive. That's right, I added. If something's wrong, we need to find a way to fix it immediately. One of them, Lisa, finally spoke up. Actually, we've noticed some oddities in the financial reports. The revenue doesn't match what was predicted. Thank you, Lisa, I said, feeling a sense of hope rising in my chest. We need all the information you have. As I left the finance department, I felt closer to the truth. But at the same time, anxiety also surged. If Sophie was indeed secretly sabotaging the company, how would I confront her? I couldn't let this happen. I had sacrificed too much for this company, and now, I needed to protect it. A sense of determination and fear intertwined, creating a storm within me. Emily, we're going to have to meet Sophie, Jake said. If she's doing something wrong, we need to confront her. That's right, I agreed, excitement rising in my heart. But I need to prepare thoroughly. I can't let her see that I'm suspicious. A few days later, I decided to hold a team meeting with all the staff in the company. I wanted to create an opportunity for everyone to voice their concerns without fear of being criticized. This would be a chance for me to learn more about the real situation. Hello everyone. I opened the meeting, trying to maintain a calm voice. I want to thank you all for the efforts you've made recently. But I also know that there are some issues that need to be discussed. Is it related to Sophie's project? An employee asked, looking worried. That's right, I said, feeling as if I was standing before a battle. I want everyone to share their thoughts about this project. The meeting took place in a tense atmosphere. Some employees began to speak up, sharing concerns about Sophie's abilities. They talked about mismatched figures, about the lack of transparency in the reports. We need to do something, one employee said. If not, the company will be in big trouble. As the meeting concluded, I felt like I had found strength from those around me. They also wanted to protect the company, and I was no longer alone in this fight. I was determined to confront Sophie, but I also knew that it wouldn't be easy. Emily, what can we do next? Jake asked, his eyes full of determination. I will meet Sophie one more time, I said, excitement rising within me. I will ask her to explain the issues in the project. If she cannot provide a reasonable explanation, I will not let her take over the company. All right, Jake agreed. I'll stand by you. As I stepped into Sophie's room, the anticipation surged within me again. I was ready for this confrontation, but I couldn't help but feel anxious. I had prepared for every possible scenario. Sophie, I began, my voice strong. I need to talk to you about the project. What is it? She asked, feigning surprise. I've received some negative feedback about the revenue figures, I said, trying to keep my tone calm. Can you explain that? Sure, Sophie replied, but I could see the tension in her eyes. I've been working hard to develop this project. There might be some minor errors, but I believe we can correct them. But those errors can have serious consequences, I emphasized. If you cannot provide a valid reason, I won't be able to accept you taking over the company. Sophie looked at me, her eyes blaring with anger. You don't have the right to decide that. I'm the one who will lead this company. No, you're not. I shot back, determination surging within me. I won't let you harm the company I saved. Our confrontation grew more intense. I could feel Sophie's anger and arrogance in her gaze. But I also knew that I had support from those around me. "Emily, you're just a failure," Sophie shouted, anger etched on her face. "You're not worthy of this position. You're the one who isn't worthy." I spat back, feeling as if I were standing in the midst of a storm. "I won't let you take over this company." Ultimately, I felt like I had stood my ground in this battle. I had found strength from those around me and from within myself. I wouldn't stop until I reclaimed what belonged to me. The feeling of excitement and determination surged within me, like a fire blazing. Today could be the beginning of a battle, but I was ready. I wouldn't stop until I reclaimed what belonged to me. A week passed since the confrontation with Sophie, and the atmosphere in the Parker Innovations office became more tense than ever. Everyone felt the instability, like a storm quietly approaching. I was determined to uncover the truth, but what I discovered only complicated the situation further. "Emily, there is news from the finance department," Jake said as I sat in the office, filled with anxiety. "They found some serious issues in Sophie's revenue report. There may be signs of fraud." "Fraud?" I repeated, feeling a strong shock hit me. "Did she really do that?" "We need to clarify things more," Jake replied, his eyes heavy. "If this is true, we must bring this issue to light immediately." "That's right," I said, feeling a surge of excitement. "But if we don't have enough evidence, everything might turn against us." The next day, I decided to meet Lisa, a member of the finance department, to learn more. I knew she had some important information. When I entered her office, I saw her sitting in front of the computer, her face worried. "Lisa, thank you for meeting me," I said, trying to keep my voice calm. "I heard that there are some issues in Sophie's report." "That's right," Lisa said, her eyes full of worry. "I found some numbers that don't match. It seems she adjusted some data to make the project seem more feasible." "What does that mean?" I asked, feeling a surge of excitement. "She might be trying to cover up some big losses," Lisa replied, her voice trembling. "If this continues, the company could be in great danger." "Thank you, Lisa," I said, my heart heavy. "I will do everything I can to protect this company." That evening, I sat in the office, the warm yellow lights illuminating my surroundings. I opened the computer and began to review Sophie's financial reports. Each page of documents felt like a heavy brick weighing down on my heart. I needed to find specific evidence to confront her again. "When will we confront Sophie?" Jake asked, entering the office. "I feel like time is running out and we can't wait any longer." "I need more time," I replied, my voice lowering. "I can't do this without enough evidence. But if she's really doing something wrong, we need to act immediately," Jake emphasized. "Don't let emotions cloud your judgment." "I know," I said, feeling exhausted. "But I can't let things get worse." Another week passed, and each day turned into a battle. I felt like I was standing in the midst of an endless war. One morning, when I arrived at the office, I saw a letter placed on my desk. It was a notice from my father. "Emily, we need to meet," the letter said. "There is an important decision that I need to inform you about." I felt like a wave crashing against me. "Jake, I need to meet my father right now," I said, overflowing with determination. When I stepped into my father's office, the atmosphere became tense. He was sitting at his desk, his eyes filled with worry. "You're here," he said, his voice lowering. "We need to talk about Sophie." "Yes, I know," I replied, my heart heavy. "But I have discovered some serious issues in her reports. She might be committing fraud." "Fraud?" my father repeated, his eyes widening. "Are you sure about that?" "I can't say for sure. But there are many signs indicating that," I said, feeling excitement rise within me. We need to investigate thoroughly. But if this is true, we will have to face serious consequences. My father said, his voice becoming serious. Are you ready for that? I can't let this continue, I replied, my heart filled with determination. I will do everything I can to protect this company. The meeting with my father was a turning point. I felt like I was standing at a crossroads. If I didn't act, Sophie could continue to harm the company. But if I did something wrong, I could lose everything. Emily, you need to think carefully before acting, my father emphasized. This is not just about you and Sophie. This is about the future of Parker Innovations. I understand, I said, my heart heavy. But I can't sit still knowing that something wrong is happening. The next day, I decided to meet Sophie once again. I needed to confront her. But this time I was better prepared. I had gathered enough evidence to prove that she was doing something wrong. When I entered her office, my mood was like a storm. Sophie, I said, my voice strong. We need to talk. What's the matter? She asked, feigning surprise. I found some issues in your report, I said, not giving her a chance to rebut. There are signs indicating that you're committing fraud. Fraud? Sophie scoffed, but I could see the worry in her eyes. Are you joking? No, I'm not joking, I replied. Feeling excitement surge within me. I have enough evidence to prove it. You have no right to decide anything here. Sophie shouted, anger clear on her face. I will be the one to lead this company. I can't let you take over this company, I said, feeling determination rising. If you can't provide a reasonable explanation for the mismatched numbers, I will have to report this to my father. The confrontation between us became tenser than ever. Sophie's eyes flared with anger and arrogance. I felt like I was standing on the edge of a precipice, where everything could collapse at any moment. You can't do that, Sophie shouted, her voice filled with rage. If you do, I will make you pay. I won't let you harm this company, I replied, feeling excitement rise within me. I have sacrificed too much for it. You don't know what you're talking about, Sophie screamed, her eyes a storm. You will regret it. As I left the office, excitement and anxiety flooded my heart. I knew I was at a crossroads. If I decided to report Sophie, I might harm my family relationship. But if I didn't, I could lose everything I had built. I decided to meet Jake to discuss the situation. Jake, I feel like I'm facing a difficult decision, I said, my voice lowering. I don't know what I should do. Emily, this is an important moment, Jake said, his eyes filled with determination. If she's doing something wrong, we need to act. We can't let fear hold us back. But if I report it, I might harm my family relationship, I said, my heart heavy. My father will never forgive me. But if you don't, the company will be in danger, Jake emphasized. You need to decide what is more important. In the end, I decided that I couldn't stand by. I had sacrificed too much for this company, and I couldn't let Sophie take over without doing anything. I was ready to face any consequences. I will report this to my father, I said, feeling determination rise. No matter what happens, I won't let Sophie harm the company. As I stepped into my father's office, excitement surged within me. I knew this was a decisive moment. Dad, I need to talk to you about Sophie, I said, my voice strong. What's the matter? My father asked, his eyes filled with worry. I discovered some serious issues in her reports, I said, my heart heavy. There are signs indicating that she's committing fraud. Fraud, my father repeated, his eyes widening. Are you sure about that? I have evidence, I replied, excitement rising within me. I can't let this continue. The confrontation between my father and me became tense. He looked at me, his eyes like a tightly shut door. Emily, this is a serious decision. Are you sure you want to do this? I can't stand by knowing that something wrong is happening, I said, feeling determination surge. I won't let Sophie take over this company. All right, my father said, his voice lowering. If you've made your decision, we will have to investigate. As I left the office, excitement and anxiety flooded my heart. I knew I was at a crossroads, where everything could collapse at any moment. But I also knew that I had made the right decision. I was ready to face any consequences. I would not stop until I reclaimed what was mine. 1 month later, the atmosphere in the Parker Innovations office had changed. The previous tensions seemed to have subsided, but the aftertaste of the battle still lingered in my heart. I had decided to report to my father about what Sophie had done. And this led to a thorough investigation. As a result, Sophie was not only dismissed but also had to take responsibility for her misconduct. I stood by the office window, looking outside. The bright yellow sunlight illuminated the city, and my heart was filled with chaotic emotions. I had won, but the price was a family relationship that had been severely damaged. Emily. My father's voice called from behind, pulling me out of my thoughts. We need to talk. I turned around, seeing him standing there, a pensive look on his face. Yes, Dad, I replied, feeling a rush of anxiety. I know this is very difficult. You did the right thing, my father said, his gaze full of understanding. But you also know that this caused a lot of hurt to Sophie. She is your sister. I know, I sighed, a heavy feeling in my chest. But if we do nothing, the company will be in danger. I can't let that happen. That's true, he nodded. But his eyes became sorrowful. But do you think you can forgive her? This conversation made me think deeply. I had fought to protect the company, but I had also lost a part of my family. I remembered the beautiful memories of Sophie, the days we played together, the happy moments we shared. Could we go back to those days? Dad, I don't know, I admitted, my heart heavy. I feel like I've lost an important part of my life. But I also know she was wrong. Forgiveness does not mean forgetting, my father said, his tone gentle. It is a way for us to move forward. Can you give Sophie a chance to make things right? As I left the office, I felt like I was standing at a crucial crossroads. I couldn't go back to what had happened. But I could decide how I would face the future. I learned that life is not just about winning or losing, but also about love and forgiveness. Jake, I called as I walked into his room. I need to do something. About Sophie? He asked, his expression filled with concern. Yes. I want to see her, I said, a rush of anxiety rising within me. I want to talk to her. When I arrived at Sophie's house, my heart raced. I didn't know how she would react. The door opened, and I saw her standing there, a look of surprise on her face. Emily, she said, her voice trembling. What are you doing here? I want to talk to you, I replied, my heart full of determination. About what happened? You don't have to come here, Sophie said, her expression defensive. I was wrong, and I accept the consequences. I know, I said, feeling a lump in my throat. But I also know that we cannot let this tear our family apart. Family? Sophie repeated, her eyes welling with tears. I hurt you, Emily. I don't deserve this family. You do, I said, my heart filled with emotion. We all make mistakes. But what matters is that we can learn from them. The conversation between us took place in a tense but emotional atmosphere. I saw tears rolling down Sophie's cheeks. And I felt the pain she had endured. I'm sorry, Sophie said, her voice choked. I was too greedy and selfish. I never wanted to hurt anyone. I know, I replied, my heart full of understanding. We all have our weak moments. But what's important is that we can forgive each other. As the conversation ended, I felt as if a heavy burden had been lifted. Sophie and I had been able to talk sincerely, and I knew we could start anew. "Thank you, Emily," Sophie said, her eyes filled with gratitude. "I don't know if I can start over, but I will try." "We will do it together," I replied, feeling a rush of excitement. Family is the most important thing, and we cannot let anything tear us apart. As I left Sophie's house, my heart was full of hope. I had learned that difficult decisions are not just about right or wrong, but also about love and forgiveness. I had grown so much throughout this journey. A month later, Parker Innovations had begun to recover. Sophie returned to work, and we began to rebuild our relationship together. We learned that everyone makes mistakes, but what matters is how we face them. "Emily, thank you for giving me a chance," Sophie said in a team meeting. "I promise I won't let this happen again." "We will overcome this together," I replied, my heart full of belief. Family is the most important thing, and I will always stand by you. In the end, I realized that life is not always easy. We will face challenges and hardships, but what matters is how we face them. Forgiveness and love will help us overcome any difficulties. I learned that everyone has their own stories, and we cannot judge someone solely by their mistakes. What matters is that we can learn from those mistakes and grow together. And so, I stepped out of the office, the bright sunlight shining around me. I knew that my journey was not over. But I was ready for any challenge that life would bring. I would never forget this lesson: love and forgiveness are the greatest powers we can have.